I really love the Rookie of the Year award in the NFL. And I don't love it because of what you might think. It's not because we're getting a glimpse into the future success of these budding NFL stars. It's because there's controversy. And not controversy over who deserves the award or who should get the award, but controversy over what the award actually means. You see, on the one hand, there are some people that believe that is a precursor to a long, illustrious NFL career littered with MVPs and Vince Lombardi trophies. And on the one hand, there are people that are very literal about what the award means and just that it is a good rookie season. I tend to believe that it's somewhere in the middle. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about which quarterbacks in that rookie class are best slated to win that Rookie of the Year award. Cue the title screen. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, football fans of all kinds, to Brewz'd Balls, the podcast that does three things: talks football, drinks beer, and bruises egos. Tonight, before we get into our topic at hand, we have to drink Brews, because it's not Brewz'd Balls without a beer, or in this case, a hard seltzer, Vista Bay tangerine-flavored hard seltzer. Let's give it a go. I'm actually out of beer, so that's why we're drinking a hard seltzer. Cheers. Not my favorite. Decent. I would drink it on a hot day. All right. So here's what we're going to do for tonight's episode. Obviously, we are talking about the quarterbacks that are best slated to win Rookie of the Year. Now, there are only three starting: Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Bo Nix. Talking about starting week one. I'm not going to speculate when Michael Penix or when Drake May is going to get the nod to start, so they will not be included in this episode, and we are also not including any other position players. Not that it is a quarterback-given award. However, this is going to primarily focus on the quarterbacks only because they have the best odds to win it. We're also going to go in draft order, so when they were drafted, which means we're going to start with Caleb, move on to Jaden Daniels, and finish off with Bo Nix. So let us start with Caleb Williams. I am a self-proclaimed Bears fan. Full disclosure. And I have to tell you, there should not be a person or a player on this list that is better slated to win Rookie of the Year than Caleb Williams. In fact, I would think that his odds to win Rookie of the Year are the highest of all time. Now, there's a reason I say that. Not because I believe he is God's gift to football. I don't even like the Patrick Mahomes comparisons. I think it's unfair to Caleb and kind of a disrespect to Patrick Mahomes, frankly. But I will compare him to another number one prospect, not for the reason that you think, and number one draft pick also, LeBron James. Now, before we get into, oh my God, he's comparing Caleb to LeBron, hear me out. It's not that I think Caleb Williams is going to turn into Patrick Mahomes or the LeBron James of football, but there were definite comparisons that could be made about Caleb's game that we made to LeBron's game, in that LeBron was good at everything he did. Everything. He was a good defender. He was a good shooter. He was a good passer. He was a good rebounder. He had great athleticism. He wasn't the best at one particular thing. He was just really good at everything. And that is exactly what Caleb is. He's not the most athletic. He's not the tallest, doesn't have the best build or the strongest arm. But he does combine the best of all of those attributes. He's got a rocket for an arm. He's got great IQ, he's athletic enough, and more importantly, he's got weapons surrounding him, so he's in the best position to succeed. We watched Caleb Williams throughout the preseason, and the first thing that we said was, oh my God, how does he make some of the throws that he makes? We weren't asking about the 50% completion percentage that he made. We weren't talking about his happy feet in the first few games when he was dancing around inside the pocket, trying to make decisions on rapid fire. There are going to be peaks and valleys to Caleb's game, and one of the criticisms that came out of him with college was his ability to play hero ball. And there's a little bit of Justin Fields in there, and the fact that sometimes he gets a little sloppy with turnovers. You're going to see that. You're going to see a lot of peaks and valleys. You're going to see some games where you're like, Caleb, what the fuck was that? And then other games where you're like, oh my God, there are two or three players on the face of the earth that can do what he just did. So I do think he's slated to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And I do think that he is primed to win Rookie of the Year. And in fact, he leads my charge as the best candidate for the job. But I also think that you're going to see a bunch of peaks and valleys of Caleb this year. I'm predicting 3,900 yards passing, around 63% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and he's going to lead the Bears to a 10-7 record. Now let's move on to Jayden Daniels at number 2. Jayden Daniels is a really unique prospect. He's a really unique quarterback because his skill set is so much like Lamar Jackson, it's not even funny. In fact, he's got almost too much in common with Lamar Jackson. The biggest thing that came out of Lamar's draft grade when he not only came out of the combine, but when he was drafted by the Ravens was, first of all, his frame. Jayden Daniels and Lamar are very, very slight people. In fact, Jayden could probably stand to put on about 20 pounds of muscle, and that scares me because if he takes one really big hit while he's running on a scramble, you can pretty much guarantee that those bones are going to snap like a twig. Now, it's possible that and probable actually, that he's going to put on 20 pounds in the offseason. He's still really young. The kid's 22 or 23 years old. He's got a lot of time to put on weight. In fact, he's probably just getting into his real man body. He's obviously in the prime of his life, but still 22, 23 years old, you're still a kid. He's still got time to grow, and his metabolism is probably freaky fast like Jimmy John's. The other part of his game that kind of worries me a little bit is he doesn't have a lot of zip on the ball. His arm strength is good in his ability to throw the ball downfield, but he doesn't throw a fast football. He's got feathery touch when it comes to his lob passes, which is really, really nice, and it should be noted that you will need that at some point in your throwing repertoire as an NFL quarterback. But there are also other times when you're going to have to fit a football into a tight window about that big, and I don't know that he's got that yet. I think he's got excellent touch, like I said, and his feet are fantastic. He's the best athlete out of all of these quarterback prospects in this year's draft, and you're going to see a lot of comparisons and a lot of Lamar-like plays. In fact, I think, truthfully, Jayden Daniels will probably win an MVP before Caleb does, simply on the fact that he's going to put up video game numbers. So I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year simply because the team around him isn't good or as good as the Chicago Bears, and the talent around him isn't as good as Caleb's. Caleb's got 2 receivers, by the way, that had over 90 receptions and 1,200 yards last season in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. That's not even mentioning Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, and DeAndre Swift. Jayden Daniels' number 1 target is Terry McLaurin. And I know they brought in Austin Eckler, very nice, and they're adding to this team with all their draft picks that they had. I believe they had 8 or 9 draft picks. So they're doing the right things. I think you're going to see a lot of production from Jayden Daniels this year, but the team is not going to be good enough, and that is baked in, of course, with the Rookie of the Year award. So I think Jayden's going to be somewhere around 3,300 yards passing, another 500 on the ground, 22 touchdowns passing, another 4 on the ground, and then probably 11 to 12 interceptions. Around 60 to 61% completion percentage, which should be noted is a very okay and probably pretty good rookie season. It's just not going to be good enough to beat Caleb. So he would probably be second on my list. Coincidentally, coming in as the last person drafted who's starting and third on my list is Bo Nix. Now, Bo Nix is an interesting prospect, and I have gone back and forth on what I think about Bo Nix. The first thing that I have to tell you is he is the most NFL-ready quarterback in this draft. Let me pause right there. That does not mean that he's better than Caleb. That does not mean that he's better than Jayden. It just means when it comes to the NFL style of play, Bo is the most ready. We said the same thing about Mac Jones in the 2021 draft. Bo plays the most on time. He's the most pocket aware. And he has a coach that understands exactly what to do to get him to succeed. You are not going to see the peaks and valleys like with Caleb or with Jayden. But what you're not going to see is the unbelievable explosive talent. He's going to look a lot like Drew Brees did at the end. He's going to throw on time, quick, accurate throws, and he's going to nickel and dime his way down the field. It should also be noted that the Denver Broncos, out of both the Commanders and the Bears, have the least talent around them. So this is not going to be a great football team. In fact, they're probably not going to be a good football team. But Bo will look good. Bo will have games where he throws for 260 yards. He'll complete 70% of his passes and throw for 2 touchdowns with no picks. He's going to have a lot of success, but he's not going to have the highs that Caleb and Jaden are going to have. Bo is not the quarterback that you want when you're down by 14 with 5 minutes left in the game and say, hey, go win us this football game. He's not going to be able to do that, especially not in year one. What he's going to do is get a comfortable lead when they get the lead, and he's going to hold on to it. There's nothing wrong with that. Alex Smith was amazing at that. Tom Brady, for the first half of his career, was amazing at that. Brock Purdy is amazing at that. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have made a lot of money and brought a lot of success to their team doing just that. So Sean Payton, who knows exactly how to operate with this type of quarterback, is going to have Bo slated for those very short, very quick, on-time throws, and that's going to bring them success. I actually think that Bo is going to end up somewhere around 3,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 66% completion percentage, and only 6 INTs. I think he's actually going to be the quarterback this year that has the least amount of turnovers out of all 6 of those guys. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be a great team. I have the Denver Broncos finishing at 8-9, which I believe is what they finished at last year. And of course, missing the playoffs because I think both the Raiders and the Chiefs are obviously better than them. I do want to move on to a college football topic because we have not brought it up on this podcast yet. So I'm going to glaze my favorite team in college football, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Cheers to you, boys. All right, let's start with the good, and then we'll move on to the realistic. What an unbelievable first performance to go into Kyle Field, one of the hardest stadiums and atmospheres to play in college football, and come out with a win. I've been to Kyle Field. I've seen a Texas A&M game firsthand. One of the most unreal football experiences I've ever had in my entire life. 104,000 screaming Texas A&M fans are no joke. They really love their football, and my God, was it loud at this venue. And I went when they played New Mexico. I couldn't imagine what it was like playing against Notre Dame, one of the most hated universities when it comes to college football in the nation. I think the only people that you could really say hate people more are Michigan fans, but that's just because I also hate Michigan fans. Anyway, this is a very different Fighting Irish team than we're used to seeing. We are used to seeing dominant offensive lines, dominating the line of scrimmage, huge hog mollies up front, massive left tackles, guys that are going first round in the top 6 of every NFL draft, dominated the running game, hyper-athletic quarterback, great skill position players that run the spread offense to perfection. And that is not what you're going to get with this Irish team. This defense is unbelievable. This secondary is the best secondary I've ever seen from any Notre Dame team, period. I know what you're thinking when I'm going to say this. I'm going to be kind of hyperbolic. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to tell you this straight up. Xavier Watts, the starting safety for Notre Dame, is going to be the best safety in the NFL in 4 years. Mark it down. The dude is unbelievable. This secondary has got a stranglehold on all the wide receivers, and they've played together now for 3 years. And Marcus Freeman has done an unbelievable job, not only recruiting, but really making sure that his side of the ball, and he's a defensive guy, is to a perfection. Now, with that being said, Notre Dame is not going to get in any shootouts. This team is not good enough. There's a stat floating around right now in college football, and it's really popular. The collective starts on offensive lines with, I think the most tenured offensive line has 214 career starts combined. Notre Dame had 6. So you have got a very, very young and fledgling offensive line. But they actually performed pretty well. especially in the second half. I know things got off to a rough start with the run game. Riley Leonard didn't do himself any favors. He didn't play particularly well. I think it went 15 of 30 for 158 yards. It's not a great performance, but there was discipline in the offense. They knew what they were going to do. They weren't going to beat you downfield. They nickeled and dimed their way down the field and made sure that they ate the clock up when they needed to and attacked when they needed to. The real story of this game is the defense. To go in and shut down Texas A&M at home, first game of the year, 104,000 screaming fans in 93-degree heat, and to only let up 13 points and only 100 passing yards is remarkable. So great job to you boys. Hats off. But like I said, this team's not going to get in any shootouts. So if you have to go up against a team like Georgia, if you've got to go up against a team like Alabama or Auburn or any of the SEC teams, really, you could be in for a really, really long day. Now, it should also be noted that in the new playoff format, there is no way Notre Dame could get a top 4 seed. It's only for the Power 5 conferences and the conference champions, and Notre Dame is an independent. But they could be the number 1 overall seed because of the rest of their schedule, which is very weak, and come away with the number 5 seed total. And then, of course, they'd play the best of 5 champion, which would probably be like Liberty or Coastal Carolina. So things are slated for Notre Dame to not only make the playoff, but also win a playoff game, which would be a huge success for Coach Marcus Freeman. I'm just saying, we are not used to seeing a Notre Dame team that is led by a very strong defense. They've always had really nice defensive players, but not overall great defenses. It's kind of flipped. Now we're not going to see a great offense, although we do have some really good offensive players. Riley Leonard is a very good college quarterback. We are going to see this team be completely and totally run by this defense. We let up 13 points to Texas A&M, ranked 20 in the nation. What do you think we're going to do to Northern Illinois next week? It's going to be a bloodbath. 34-3, maybe. And honestly, you could see a goose egg put up at home by Northern Illinois. So cheers to you boys. Sticking at number 7, I have a lot of faith in the Irish this year. I don't think they're the best team in college football. In fact, I don't think that they're a top 5 team yet. But we will see what the future has and what this season has in store for the Marcus Freeman-led Fighting Irish. That's all the time I got for today. Remember to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and throw a comment on what you believe my takes were. Good, bad, I don't care. Leave a comment down. Tell me I'm stupid. Tell me I'm right. As long as you're commenting on the video, it really helps push out more NFL and college football content that you specifically love. As of recording this, we are only a few days away from the NFL season. College football is already underway, and this is my favorite time of the year. I just got to tell you, I am so happy that football is back, and I know you are too. See you next time.